He freezes. The whole table freezes. Birkan's friends are talking fast, their eyes darting between him and Laura, but Birkan? He's locked in, jaw clenched, refusing to translate a single word. Laura sits there, smile flickering, waiting for him to let her in. But he doesn't. Not even a hint. In that moment, the air in the caf turns heavy, like everyone's holding their breath except Laura, who's left stranded in her own relationship. This is the moment everything changes. Welcome to Reality Sport. I'm Aliva, and if you think you've seen drama, you haven't seen anything yet. Hit subscribe, drop your wildest theory in the comments, and buckle up, because this story is about to get messy. Laura thought she was coming to Turkey for love, for adventure, for a future with Birkan. Instead, she's landed in the middle of a silent war. One side, Laura, trusting, hopeful, trying to read faces she barely knows. The other, Birkan, suddenly stone-faced, holding all the cards. His friends? They're the wild card, speaking in Turkish, glancing at Laura, trying to get a message across. But Birkan shuts it down. No translation, no explanation, just a wall of silence. And Laura, who doesn't speak the language, is left guessing what's being said about her own life. You can see the confusion on her face. At first, she's smiling, nodding, trying to keep up. Then the smiles fade. Her eyes flick from friend to friend, then back to Birkan, searching for a lifeline. But he's not giving her one. Not today. Not in front of his friends. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. And the worst part? Laura knows something is wrong, but she can't prove it. Not yet. If you've ever felt left out of a conversation, multiply that by 100 and you're still not close to what Laura's feeling right now. This isn't about a language barrier. This is about control. Birkan isn't struggling to find the right words. He's choosing not to share them. He's choosing what Laura gets to know and what stays hidden. That's not a translation issue. That's a power move. And everyone at the table feels it. His friends keep talking, their voices urgent, their eyes flicking to Laura with something like concern. One of them even leans in, speaking slower, as if hoping she'll catch the meaning through tone alone. But Birkan? He's a wall. Why? What's so dangerous about this conversation that Birkan would rather risk looking suspicious than let Laura hear it? Is it about money? Is it about another woman? Or is it something darker? Something that could blow up the whole relationship if it came out. The stakes are sky high, and Laura's trust is hanging by a thread. She's not naive. She knows when she's being shut out. But what can she do? She's in a foreign country, surrounded by people who know Birkan better than she ever could, and the one person she's supposed to trust is the one keeping her in the dark. The power dynamic has shifted, and Laura's on the losing end. Right now, every viewer is screaming at the screen, begging Laura to ask harder questions, to demand answers, to walk out if she has to. But it's not that simple when your heart's on the line. Birkan's friends aren't subtle. They're trying to warn her. You can see it in their faces, hear it in the urgency of their voices. But Birkan's not having it. He stares them down, jaw tight, eyes cold, and the message is clear. This conversation is over. Laura's not getting in. Not today. The silence stretches. Laura's smile fades completely. She's not part of the conversation anymore. She's not even part of her own story. She's just an audience member, watching her future get decided in a language she can't understand. And Birkan? He's the director, the editor, the gatekeeper of reality. He decides what gets through, and what gets left on the cutting room floor. If you think this is about money, think again. Money creates stress, but control creates fear. And right now, Laura's feeling both. The caf, which was supposed to be a safe space, has turned into a pressure cooker. Birkan's friends are tense, their voices low, their glances sharp. Laura's posture changes. She's not leaning in anymore. She's pulling back, shrinking, trying to make herself smaller. She's waiting for Birkan to let her in. But he's not budging. What are they talking about? What's so important that Birkan would risk everything to keep it from Laura? Is it about his job, his debt, his past? Or is it about something even bigger? Something that could change everything if Laura found out. The questions pile up, but the answers are locked behind Birkan's silence. Every second that passes, the tension ratchets up. You can feel it through the screen. Laura's trust is on the line. Birkan's secrets are on the table. His friends are trying to help, but Birkan's shutting them down. And Laura? She's caught in the middle, with no way out. The stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just a bad date, this is a turning point. The moment when one person decides what the other is allowed to know. The moment when a relationship stops being equal and starts being something else. Something dangerous. If you're still watching, you're probably wondering, what are Birkan's friends trying to say? And why is Laura being blocked from the truth? That's the question that's going to haunt this story. And trust me, the answers are only going to get messier from here. Silence isn't always empty. Sometimes, it's loaded. In that cafe, Birkan's silence is louder than any argument. Laura sits stiff, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve, eyes darting between faces, searching for a clue. The laughter from the next table feels miles away. Birkan's friends keep glancing at her, then at him, their words tumbling out in Turkish. But the only thing Laura gets is the chill in the air. She tries to catch Birkan's eye, but he looks past her, jaw set, arms crossed, a human barricade. Every second he refuses to translate, the power shifts. Laura's voice shrinks. She's not just outnumbered, she's outmaneuvered. The table that was supposed to be a bridge has become a wall. Her smile is gone, replaced by a tight line. She leans back, shoulders tense, as if bracing for a storm she can't see coming. Birkan's silence isn't awkward. It's strategic. He's not lost in translation, he's holding the remote, deciding what plays and what gets muted. Is he protecting her or protecting himself? Is this about shielding her from gossip or hiding something that could blow up his story? Laura's gut is screaming, but she's still hoping for a lifeline. Does she push for answers and risk a scene, or stay quiet and hope the truth slips out later? The room feels smaller, the stakes higher. Birkan's silence is a message, and Laura's left to decode it alone. If you think this is just about money or jealousy, think again. What if the real secret is even bigger? Before the café showdown, Laura tried to convince herself that Birkan's life was just different. Every morning, he'd stroll down the same narrow street, nodding at the shopkeepers, sliding into his usual spot at the café like he owned the place. The staff knew his order before he sat down. Shisha pipe ready, tea poured, a routine so smooth it almost looked like stability. Laura watched him laugh with the regulars, spinning stories in Turkish, always at the center of the action. To her, it felt like belonging. To him, it was home turf. But under the surface, cracks showed. Birkan never talked about work. Not once did Laura see him leave for a job, take a call about business, or even mention a plan for the future. When she asked, he'd wave it off with a joke or change the subject. "This is my life," he'd say, gesturing at the café, the shisha, the endless parade of friends. Laura wanted to believe him. She told herself maybe this was just how things worked here. Maybe he was between jobs, or maybe Turkish culture was more relaxed. She tried to ignore the knot in her stomach. Still, the questions piled up. How did Birkan pay for his daily café habit? Why did he always have cash for shisha but never talked about bills or savings? Laura noticed he'd get tense when money came up, brushing off her concerns with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. She started making excuses for him, telling herself he was just proud, or maybe embarrassed. She wanted to see the best in him, so she looked away from the warning signs. But the routine that looked so comforting started to feel like a trap. The same faces, the same stories, the same seat at the café every day. No progress, no ambition, just a loop. Laura wondered if she was missing something. Was this really contentment, or was Birkan hiding from something bigger? Then, one afternoon, she caught a glimpse of his phone screen, numbers, odds, a betting app open in the background. Birkan snapped the phone away, laughing it off, but Laura's heart skipped. Was this just a game? Or was it the first crack in the mask? The comfort of routine suddenly looked a lot like escape. If you think the calf is just a backdrop, you're about to find out it's the center of Birkan's secret life. The Michael conversation hit like a slap. Out of nowhere, Birkan dropped his demand. Cut Michael off. No debate, no timeline, no room for Laura's side. He didn't ask how she felt about her friend, didn't care about the history, didn't even pretend to listen. He just laid down the law and waited for her to fall in line. Laura tried to keep her voice steady, explaining Michael was just a friend, but Birkan's face hardened. He wasn't looking for reassurance. He wanted compliance. There's a line between caring and controlling, and Birkan pole vaulted over it. Concern sounds like, I feel uncomfortable. Can we talk about it? Control sounds like, do what I say, or else. Birkan didn't offer a conversation, he issued an ultimatum. And when Laura hesitated, even for a second, he did what he always does when things don't go his way. He walked out. Left her standing alone in a village where she barely spoke the language, holding the pieces of a fight she never wanted. Laura's mind spun. Was this protectiveness, or was it possession? She replayed the scene in her head, searching for signs she'd missed. Was Birkan jealous, or was he threatened by anyone who had access to her heart? The emotional stakes shot up. If she gave in, what would be next? If she pushed back, would he leave again? The pressure to keep the peace started to feel like a leash. Birkan's words sounded like boundaries, but his actions screamed authority. Laura felt the walls closing in. Was she in a relationship, or was she being managed? The difference matters. Because love listens, but control commands. So, is Birkan fighting for Laura, or fighting to keep her under his thumb? And if she gives in now, what will she have to give up next? From the outside, the calf looks like any other neighborhood hangout. But inside, the energy is electric, and not in a good way. Birkan's friends are gathered around the table, their voices low, their eyes sharp. They know Laura is out of her element, and they know Birkan better than anyone. When Laura sits down, they greet her warmly, but there's a tension in their smiles, a heaviness in the air that doesn't match the clink of tea glasses or the swirl of shisha smoke. One friend, the one with the nervous laugh, keeps glancing at Birkan before speaking. Another leans in, voice softer, as if trying to bridge the language gap with tone alone. They're not gossiping, they're warning. You can see it in the way they look at Laura, then at each other, then at Birkan, who's gone stone cold. The conversation shifts from small talk to something heavier, and suddenly Birkan's translating days are over. He shuts down, arms crossed, eyes locked on his friends, daring them to keep going. Laura senses the shift. She's not fluent in Turkish, but she's fluent in tension. She watches the friends, trying to read their faces, searching for clues in every gesture. One friend tries again, speaking slower, almost pleading. Laura leans in, desperate for a lifeline, but Birkan cuts it off with a look that says, "Not another word." The silence is suffocating. If you've ever been in a room where everyone knows something you don't, you know how Laura feels? Like the ground is shifting under her feet. Why are Birkan's friends so insistent? What do they know that Laura doesn't? Maybe they've seen this pattern before. Maybe they've watched Birkan pull this move with someone else, or maybe they know about the debt, the gambling, the secrets he keeps tucked away. Their concern isn't casual. It's urgent. They're trying to get through to Laura before it's too late. But Birkan is relentless. He doesn't soften, doesn't explain, doesn't even pretend to care about Laura's confusion. He's not just blocking information, he's blocking rescue. In that moment, he's not a boyfriend, he's a gatekeeper, and Laura is on the wrong side of the door. The psychology here is brutal. Isolation doesn't always start with slammed doors or raised voices. Sometimes, it starts with a smile and a subject change. When one person controls the flow of information, the other starts to doubt their own instincts. Laura's gut is screaming, but Birkan's silence makes her question herself. Is she overreacting? Is she missing something? Should she trust him or trust the warning in his friend's eyes? Dependency creeps in quietly. Laura doesn't speak the language, doesn't know the customs, doesn't have a support system in Turkey. Birkan is her translator, her guide, her only anchor. When he decides what she's allowed to hear, he decides what reality she gets to live in. That's not partnership, that's captivity, dressed up as care. Every time Birkan shuts down a conversation, Laura loses a little more ground. Every time his friends try to help and he blocks them, the walls close in tighter. The friends aren't giving up though. One of them, braver than the rest, keeps pushing. He looks Laura in the eye, speaks slowly, hoping she'll catch the urgency in his voice. He's trying to warn her, to break through the barrier Birkan has built. But Birkan's stare is icy, and the message is clear. Back off. Laura's confusion turns to suspicion. She starts to see the pattern. Every time the conversation gets close to something real, Birkan shuts it down. Every time someone tries to give her context, he changes the subject. It's not about protecting her feelings, it's about protecting himself. The suspense is unbearable. What are they trying to tell her? Is it about the money, the gambling, the debt, or is it something even bigger? Something that could blow up the whole relationship if it came out. Laura's mind races with possibilities. She wants to believe Birkan, but the evidence is piling up against him. If you're watching this and thinking Laura should run, you're not alone. But when your heart is on the line, logic takes a back seat. Isolation works best when it's invisible. Birkan isn't yelling, isn't threatening, isn't making a scene. He's just quietly deciding what Laura gets to know. That's how dependency grows. Laura starts to rely on him for everything. Translation, context, even her own sense of reality. The more she relies on him, the harder it is to break free. Birkan's friends see it happening in real time. They exchange worried glances, try to find a way around him, but he's unmovable. Laura is trapped, not by force, but by silence. The café, once a place of comfort, has become a cage. The psychology of control is subtle. It's not always about domination. Sometimes, it's about editing reality until the other person can't tell what's real and what's not. Laura starts to doubt her own judgment. She wonders if she's being paranoid, if she's reading too much into things. That's exactly where Birkan wants her. Unsure, dependent, easy to manage. If you think this is the end of the story, think again. The real secrets haven't even come out yet. The friends' warnings hang in the air, unspoken, but unmistakable. Laura is left with more questions than answers. What is Birkan hiding? How far will he go to keep her in the dark? The silence at the table is just the beginning. The real danger is what's lurking beneath it, waiting to explode. And as Laura sits there, caught between the friend's concern and Birkan's control, one thing becomes clear. The truth is out there, but Birkan will do anything to keep it from reaching her. What is Birkan hiding, and how far will he go to keep Laura from the truth? The next move could change everything. When the cameras finally catch Birkan alone, the mask slips. No friends, no Laura, no audience to impress, just a man and his truth. He admits it. He doesn't have a job. He spends his days at the café, not working, but waiting. And then, almost as if it's no big deal, he drops the real bomb. Gambling isn't a hobby for him. It's his work. Every day, every chance he gets, he's chasing luck, not a paycheck. The number that comes next is enough to make anyone's stomach drop, $50,000 in debt, and no plan in sight. The timing of this confession is everything. Birkan only opens up after his friends nearly force the issue, after Laura's already invested her heart, her time, and her future. He didn't share this on day one. He waited until the walls were closing in, until hiding it was no longer an option. That's not transparency. That's damage control. So what's really going on here? Is Birkan desperate, doing whatever it takes to survive? Is he too proud to admit he's drowning, so he spins gambling as a job instead of a risk? Or is this something colder? A calculated move to keep Laura hooked, to make her feel needed, to set her up as his ticket out of trouble. The line between survival and manipulation gets blurry when the stakes are this high. To be fair, stress can twist anyone. Debt can make people reckless. Pride can make honesty feel impossible. Maybe Birkan's not a villain, just a man under pressure clinging to the only hope he sees. But that doesn't erase the impact on Laura. She's been kept in the dark, asked to trust blindly, and now she's staring down a future built on secrets and uncertainty. So, is Laura falling for a man who needs saving, or is she being set up as Birkan's escape plan? And if she is, how much more is she willing to risk before she sees the truth? The moment Birkan's debt and gambling come out, the shape of the relationship changes. Suddenly, the American dream isn't just a backdrop. It's the main event. For Birkan, the idea of moving to the United States isn't about romance or adventure. It's about relief. It's about a reset button, a way to leave behind the weight of debt collectors, the monotony of the café, and the daily risk of gambling. For Laura, America is home, structure, and a future she's worked hard to build. For Birkan, it's a lifeline. This is where the balance of power quietly flips. On paper, Laura should have the upper hand. She's the one with the stable life, the passport, the plan. But as Birkan's secrets come out, the pressure shifts. Now Laura isn't just a partner. She's a potential savior. She's the one who can offer Birkan a way out, a new start, a shot at stability he can't find in Turkey. The stakes for her are suddenly much higher. She's not just risking her heart. She's risking her future, her finances, her peace of mind. Remember those early scenes at the café? The comfort of routine? The illusion of belonging? That was never real stability. It was a holding pattern. A way for Birkan to pass the time while waiting for something, or someone, to change his luck. Laura saw the warning signs, but she wanted to believe in the story, in the possibility of love conquering all. Now, with the truth out, she has to ask herself, is she building a life with Birkan, or is she building an escape route for him? The visa question hangs over everything. Would Birkan be fighting this hard for Laura if there wasn't a ticket to America on the line? Would he be so quick to demand loyalty, to shut down her friends, to control the narrative, if he wasn't desperate for a way out? And for Laura, would she be willing to overlook so much if she didn't feel responsible for his future? The lines between love, obligation, and rescue start to blur. If you've ever wondered who really wins when one person needs saving and the other needs to be needed, this is where the story gets complicated. The American dream is powerful, but it comes with a price. For Birkan, it's the hope of freedom from debt, from shame, from the endless loop of risk and disappointment. For Laura, it's the burden of carrying someone else's future on her shoulders. The relationship stops being a partnership and starts feeling like a transaction. Safety for one, responsibility for the other. Would this relationship survive if the visa wasn't on the table? If there were no plane tickets, no promise of a new life, would Birkan still be here, fighting for Laura? Or would he still be sitting at that café waiting for the next bet, the next distraction, the next escape? And for Laura, would she still be willing to forgive, to rationalize, to hope, if she wasn't the only way out? So what happens when love and survival collide? When the dream of escape becomes more important than the person you're escaping with? The next move could change everything. Laura came to Turkey with her heart wide open and her suitcase full of hope. She wanted a love story, not a cautionary tale. In the beginning, every new day felt like a fresh start. She brushed off the awkward moments, the missed calls, the vague answers about money. She told herself every couple has bumps, every culture has quirks. She wanted to believe Birkan was just misunderstood, not misleading. But hope has a shelf life. After the café, after the Michael ultimatum, after the confession about gambling and debt, Laura's optimism starts to crack. She finds herself replaying conversations in her head, searching for clues she missed. The jokes that once made her laugh now sound like deflections. The silences that felt mysterious now feel loaded. She's not floating through the story anymore. She's watching it, analyzing it, trying to figure out where she lost the plot. There's a moment when Laura catches herself smiling at Birkan's excuses, nodding along as if everything's fine. She realizes she's performing, not participating. She's editing her reactions, softening her questions, tiptoeing around his moods. The cost of keeping the peace is starting to show. Her voice gets quieter. Her laughter feels forced. She's not just losing trust in Birkan, she's losing trust in herself. If you've ever stayed in something too long because you didn't want to admit you were wrong, you know exactly what Laura's feeling. The psychology of sunk cost is brutal. Laura's already invested so much: time, money, emotion, even her identity. She's the woman who believed in Birkan, who defended him to her friends, who flew across the world for a chance at love. Walking away now would mean admitting she misread the signs, that she gambled on the wrong person. That kind of self-betrayal stings more than any breakup. But the red flags are getting harder to ignore. Laura starts noticing how she edits her own story to make it fit. She calls Birkan complicated instead of controlling. She says he's protective instead of possessive. She tells herself the gambling is just a phase, the debt is just a hurdle, the silence is just a language barrier. She's translating warning signs into personality traits because the alternative is too painful to face. Still, something shifts. Laura's eyes linger longer on Birkan's phone when he hides it. She listens more closely to his friends, even when she can't understand the words. She starts asking herself harder questions. Why does she feel smaller every time Birkan walks into the room? Why does she feel like she's always one wrong word away from another shutdown? Why does love feel more like a test than a partnership? The witty part of Laura, the part that used to roast her own bad decisions over brunch with friends, starts to wake up. She catches herself thinking, if this was happening to my best friend, what would I say? The answer isn't pretty. She'd say, run. She'd say, you deserve better. She'd say, love shouldn't feel like a pop quiz you're always failing. If you're still rooting for Laura, you're not alone. But rooting for someone doesn't mean ignoring reality. The emotional stakes are sky high. Laura's not just fighting for a relationship, she's fighting for her own sense of judgment, her own ability to trust herself again. The cost of staying is starting to outweigh the fear of leaving. But change is hard, especially when you've built your whole story around hope. So, will Laura finally confront the truth? Or will she keep translating red flags into romance? The next move is hers, and the fallout could rewrite everything she thought she knew about love. The episode barely finishes airing before the internet explodes. Fans split into camps, each with their own hot take. Some are furious at Birkan, calling him a manipulator, a user, a walking red flag. Others rush to Laura's defense, painting her as a victim, too trusting for her own good. Then there's the third group, the ones who say she should have known better, as if love comes with a manual and subtitles for every lie. Blame flies fast. Sympathy pours in. But in all the noise, something crucial gets missed. Most people are arguing about the wrong thing. They're stuck on the gambling, the debt, the Michael ultimatum. They want to know if Birkan is a scammer or just a mess. They want to know if Laura is naive or just unlucky. But the real danger isn't in the numbers or the ultimatums, it's in the silence. Scroll through the comments and you'll see it. Why didn't Laura just leave? Why didn't Birkan tell her sooner? Why are his friends only speaking up now? Everyone wants a villain and a hero, but real life is messier. Sometimes the villain is a pattern, not a person. Sometimes the hero is the one who finally listens to their own gut. If you're watching this and thinking you'd never fall for it, remember, control doesn't always look like control. Sometimes it looks like care. The slow erosion of voice and autonomy is the real risk. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with small things. Letting someone else order for you, letting them explain away a weird moment, letting them decide what you need to know. At first, it feels like trust. Then it starts to feel like dependence. By the time you realize you're not making your own choices, you're already deep in the quicksand. Fans love to play detective, piecing together clues from social media, old episodes, and leaked DMs. They want to solve the mystery, to catch the bad guy, to save the girl. But the truth is, most people don't see the danger until it's too late. The warning signs aren't always neon. Sometimes they're just a mistranslation, a conversation that never happens, a question that never gets answered. Some viewers argue that Birkan is under pressure, that debt and shame can make anyone act out. Others say Laura is too forgiving, too eager to see the best in someone who keeps letting her down. Both sides have a point. Stress can twist people, hope can blind them. But neither excuse the pattern that's playing out on screen. If you've ever found yourself making excuses for someone else's behavior, you know how easy it is to slip from understanding to enabling. The real risk isn't that Birkan gambles or owes money. It's that he decides when Laura gets the truth. It's that he edits her reality, one conversation at a time. When someone else becomes your filter, your interpreter, your gatekeeper, you stop reacting to what's real and start reacting to what they allow you to see. That's how autonomy disappears, not with a bang, but with a shrug. For anyone watching at home, the practical takeaway is simple but hard. Pay attention to the patterns, not just the moments. If you find yourself shrinking, second-guessing, or waiting for permission to ask questions, something's off. If you notice you're more worried about keeping the peace than being honest, that's a red flag. If you feel like you're losing your voice, you probably are. It's easy to judge from the outside. It's harder to see the slow drip of control when you're living it. Laura didn't wake up one day and decide to hand over her agency. It happened in increments, one mistranslation, one silenced friend, one unanswered question at a time. By the time she realized what was happening, the silence was already doing the damage. If you're still with me, here's the twist. The most dangerous moment wasn't when Birkan confessed to gambling, or when he admitted his debt. It was when he chose not to translate. That's the moment the relationship stopped being a partnership and started being a performance. That's when Laura stopped being a participant and became an audience member in her own life. The silence wasn't just awkward, it was strategic. It was the moment Birkan took control, not with words, but with the absence of them. So, what's the lesson for anyone watching? Don't ignore the silences. Don't let someone else decide what you get to know. Don't trade your voice for the illusion of peace. The real risk isn't losing love, it's losing yourself. And for Laura, the next move is everything. Will she reclaim her story, or will she let the silence write the ending? The answer is coming, and it's not what anyone expects. If you think the story ends with a confession, you're about to find out the real danger is what never gets said. The café empties out, but the tension lingers. Laura walks home with Birkan, but the silence between them is louder than any fight. She tries to make small talk, but her words feel thin, like she's speaking through glass. Birkan answers in short bursts, distracted, his mind somewhere else. The walk that once felt romantic now feels like a march. Laura's confidence, already fragile, shrinks with every step. Back at the apartment, Laura sits on the edge of the bed, scrolling through old photos on her phone. She sees herself smiling, hopeful, full of plans. Now, her reflection in the window looks like someone she barely recognizes. She wonders when she started editing herself, when she started measuring every word, every question, every laugh. The cost of silence is starting to show. She feels smaller, less certain, like she's fading out of her own story. Birkan, meanwhile, is restless. He paces the room, checking his phone, glancing at Laura, but never quite meeting her eyes. He's lost his easy confidence. The grip he has on the relationship tightens, but it's not out of love, it's out of fear. He senses Laura slipping away, so he doubles down. More rules, more boundaries, more reminders that he's in charge. He frames it as care, as protection, but Laura feels the leash tightening. If you've ever felt yourself disappearing in a relationship, you know this ache. The next morning, Laura tries to reset. She makes breakfast, asks Birkan about his plans, tries to find a way back to the comfort they once had. But every answer is vague, every smile forced. Birkan is polite but distant. He's already building walls, brick by brick, with every unanswered question. Laura feels the weight of compliance. She knows what happens if she pushes too hard. Another walkout, another cold shoulder, another day spent tiptoeing around the truth. High drama returns when Birkan's phone buzzes. He snatches it up, turns away, voice low and urgent. Laura's heart races. Is it about money? Another bet? Someone else? She wants to ask, but the memory of the calf stops her. She's learned the price of curiosity. She's learned that some questions come with consequences. Later, Birkan suggests they visit his family. Laura hesitates. The last time she met his friends, she left with more questions than answers. But Birkan insists. He wants to show her off, to prove everything is fine. Laura agrees, but her gut twists. She's not sure if she's being introduced or paraded. At the family dinner, the pattern repeats. Birkan translates selectively, skipping over awkward moments, smoothing out rough edges. Laura smiles, nods, tries to keep up, but she feels the distance growing. She's present, but not included. The cost of silence is everywhere. On her face, in her posture, in the way she laughs a little too loudly at jokes she doesn't understand. If you're watching, you can see Laura's awareness growing, even if she can't say it out loud yet. After dinner, Laura sits alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights. She thinks about the woman she was before Birkan, the one who asked questions, who trusted her instincts, who believed love was supposed to feel safe. She wonders if she can get that woman back. She wonders if she even wants to. Birkan joins her, leans against the railing, and for a moment, the old warmth returns. He talks about the future, about moving to America, about starting over. Laura listens, but she's not swept away. She hears the hope in his voice, but also the desperation. She realizes she's not just a partner, she's a lifeline. The responsibility is crushing. The next day, Laura calls her best friend back home. She tries to explain what's happening, but the words get stuck. How do you describe a relationship that looks fine on the outside, but feels like quicksand on the inside? Her friend listens, offers support, but Laura can hear the worry in her voice. The conversation ends with a simple question. Are you happy? Laura doesn't have an answer. If you've ever had to fake a smile for someone else's comfort, you know how heavy that mask can get. The emotional crescendo builds as Laura starts to reclaim her voice. She begins to ask harder questions, not just to Birkan, but to herself. What does she want? What does she deserve? Is love supposed to feel like this much work? The unresolved tension hangs in the air, thick and unspoken. Birkan senses the shift. He tries to pull Laura back in, promising change, swearing things will be different in America. But Laura's not so sure anymore. She's seen behind the curtain. She knows that geography doesn't fix patterns. She knows that silence, once learned, is hard to unlearn. The final days in Turkey are a blur of half-truths and forced smiles. Laura packs her bags, but she's not sure what she's bringing home. Hope, regret, or a lesson she never wanted. Birkan hugs her at the airport, whispers promises. But Laura's eyes are open now. She's watching, not wishing. If you think this is the end, think again. The real test is still to come. Because for every Laura and Birkan, there's another couple waiting in the wings. Another story of isolation, but with a new twist, emotional dependency that doesn't start with control, but with need. Next time, we'll meet a couple where the lines between love and loneliness blur even further, and the cost of losing your voice is paid in heartbreak, not headlines. So, if you're ready for another round of reality, secrets, and the kind of drama you can't make up, don't go anywhere. The next story is about to begin, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when the need for connection becomes the biggest risk of all.